What's going on, y'all? This is the Face Mask Podcast. My name is John Alsace, and today I want to get into a team and a player, specifically a player that I don't even know, man. I don't even know where to begin. Look, Houston is a mess. We're not even going to touch on Deshaun Watson on this pod. We're not even going to touch on Deshaun Watson. Just had to throw that in there. I'm sorry. Just had to stick that out there. All right, moving on. But from a fantasy perspective, what can we expect from Tyrod Taylor as the Texans starter? And what can we expect from their skill position players in 2021? To get an idea, we're going to dig into the last time that we've seen Tyrod as a starter since leaving the Bills 4 years ago in 2017. I mean, we could talk about his first 3 seasons on the Bills, but I don't even think that's relevant information. He was 26 to 28 years old then, and his offensive coordinator was Greg Roman, Lamar Jackson's current OC with the Ravens. He was in his athletic prime. Now he's 32. And as the numbers will reveal, he's a shell of himself as a runner, and he hasn't shown the improvement that as a passer late career Vic did on the Eagles. And I just throw that out there because that's a player that he was often compared to throughout his career, because they both started at VTech. And actually Tyrod, just a little nugget, Tyrod broke some of the records that Vic had at VTech. So, people were always expecting him to come in and light the world on fire, and he's not that. He's discount Vic, discount Vic. The last time we saw Tyrod suit up as a starter, it was for the Chargers in 2020. He went 16 of 30 for 208 scoreless yards at a 53% completion percentage. And he also ran 6 times for 7 yards. Needless to say, you just weren't happy starting him. You weren't happy starting any of the Chargers skill position players in that outing. Hunter Henry went 5 for 73. Keenan Allen 4 for 37. Mike Williams 4 for 69. Eckler 1 for 3. I mean, I guess you were happy with Hunter Henry, but moving on. Kind of a bleh experience. In 2019, he was the Chargers' backup quarterback, but he never saw starter work, with Rivers playing his whole last year in Los Angeles. In 2018, he was the starter for the Browns in Baker's first year. He started 3 games and he went 15 for 40 for 197 and 1 touchdown and 1 interception. 37.5 completion percentage. 8 for 77 on the ground. Got a TD on the ground too. So it's not horrible on the ground. Terrible as a passer. Huge takeaway from this box score is that the supporting cast wasn't putting up a ton of fantasy points. Jarvis Landry went 7 for 106. That's about it. Role player caught 17-yard touchdown. Next game, 22 of 30 for 246 yards, a touchdown and an interception, 4 for 26 rushing. Better as a passer, took a step forward there, took a step back in the rushing game. You weren't happy starting him. Again, that's a trend. And you really weren't happy starting anyone in that offense unless you gambled on Antonio Callaway with his 3 for 81 and a TD line. No other Brown caught more than 5 passes for 69 scoreless yards. Not good. In his last game as a starter for the Browns before getting benched for then rookie Baker Mayfield, like I said, he went 4 of 14 for 19 scoreless yards. 4 of 22 on the ground. No TDs there either. Yuck. Look, just at his best, he was never a guy who blew up box scores. But he can barely support one fantasy relevant option, and you can't guarantee on who it's going to be because he was never a guy who locked in on one target. His absolute ceiling in 2019, I think, is 2020 Tua, which was 14.5 fantasy points per game, the QB 28 for the stretch of games that Tua played. That's what he was. That's what I think the ceiling is for Tyrod Taylor as a starter in 2021. And I don't even think he's going to reach that ceiling because we haven't even gotten into the supporting cast that I've been referencing throughout this whole little video here, which is by far the worst in the league, with the exception of, Brandon Cooks. But still, even including him, worst supporting cast in the league. So I'm expecting QB 32 or even lower. As for that supporting cast, I don't know if they're trying to be the 2020 Jags and just suck for the number 1 pick in 2022, but it kind of looks like that's what they're trying to do. And if that's the case, we might see Tyrod play the whole season. It's not going to be a situation where you got Baker coming in behind, so they sit him. This is it. It's not a situation where you have Justin Herbert coming in behind him. If the Texans were smart, they'd draft somebody. But if you've been paying attention to football for any length of time, you know that the Texans aren't the smartest organization. They're not run very well. Barring a move of them going out and getting a Kellen Mond, Kyle Trask, somebody late, one of these guys even later, just so that there's the threat that maybe they might throw in a guy instead of Tyrod. But no, I think they're going to be rolling with Tyrod for as long as Tyrod is healthy. And I think that means you don't want any part of anybody in this offense. Not even Brandon Cooks. Coming as a guy who just a few weeks ago was talking about Brandon Cooks for being in contention for being a wide receiver 1 again this year. Because he was for stretches last year. And he has no competition from Will Fuller. Even with that said, Tyrod isn't a guy that locks onto one guy. He's not a guy that can sustain any fantasy production for any length of time. End of story. So you might not have needed a deep dive into Tyrod Taylor and Houston to come up with the conclusion that I did. But for those of you that were holding out hope for anyone in this offense, the numbers just say don't do it. Thanks for listening, y'all. This is the Face Mask Podcast. I am John Alsace. Have a great day.